Good morning, this is Kamera again. We're on day number 135, 2nd Chronicles, chapter 18 through 20. Jehoshaphat is king still, king of Judah, and he makes an alliance with King Ahab of Israel by allowing their children to marry. Ahab's daughter marries Jehoshaphat's son. and so years later, King Ahab has this feast, this banquet, and for Jehoshaphat and his family and his officials. So he invites them to Samaria, which is the capital of Israel, and they have this feast. And during this feast, this banquet, King Ahab asks Jehoshaphat to join his forces with him, and they go and recover Ramoth Gilead. And so Jehoshaphat says, "Sure, sure, we're one people. Yes, I'll assist with the battle." And so he goes on to say, "Let's seek God about this." And so Ahab is fine with that. He calls his 400 prophets. His 400 prophets say, "Yes, you're going to be victorious." And so Jehoshaphat is like, "Do you have a man of God among you?" And so Ahab said, "Yes, I have Micaiah, but Micaiah never gives me a good report." Joshua's like, "That's no way a king should talk." And let's hear him out. And so they they send someone to get Micaiah. And so fast forward, they're sitting in their robes. The two kings are sitting in the threshing floor of Samaria. I believe it was Samaria. And they are, along with all of the 400 prophets. And one of the prophets, Zedekiah, all dramatic, creates this horn, tells Ahab, God is going to destroy you, just like, we're going to, like I'm destroying this horn. I'm like, okay, so dramatic, right? Guess he's trying to impress the king. I don't know. Meanwhile, Micaiah, his messenger, comes to tells him, well, all the prophets told the king that he's going to be victorious. You should do the same. Micaiah said, I'm going to tell the king whatever God tells me. And so Micaiah gets to the king. King asks him, am I going to be successful in this battle? And so Micaiah was sarcastic. He was like, yes, king, you're going to be victorious. Ahab gets mad. Sounds like he has a tantrum like a child. Didn't I tell you to always be honest with me or whatever, truthful with me? And so he says, well, what I did see was I had a vision that Israel was scattered like a sheep, like sheep without a shepherd. And so he's like, didn't I tell you he doesn't tell me anything good? And so Micaiah goes on to tell them what the Lord had told him. Micaiah sees God sitting on the throne, his army of hosts on his right and his left, and God says, who will entice Ahab to go against Ramoth Gilead and die? And so one of the spirits came to him and told him, I will entice Ahab's prophets to lie to him. And so God said, well, that is good. And so, yeah, God has sent a lying spirit among your prophets. And so Zedekiah, that one dramatic priest, comes and he slaps Micaiah and said, when did the Spirit of God leave me and come to you? Yeah, that's how he was rewarded, by telling the truth. And so Micaiah said, well, you'll be thinking about that when you're running and hiding. And so Ahab Micaiah placed in jail. Send him to my son Joash and feed him bread and water, and don't release him until I come back safely. Micaiah's like, if you return safely, God did not speak to me. And so this next part, I'm like, I don't understand this part because, well, I understand, but this is what we do. Ahab and Jehoshaphat goes out to battle. And this is the part that gets me with Jehoshaphat. Remember, Jehoshaphat is a man of God. He is the one who suggested they call the man of God, seek God for direction about this battle. He heard what the man of God said. Jehoshaphat heard that Micaiah said that it was not God's will that they go out to battle. It was not, he heard the report that God was not with that program, basically. Where was he with the program? Well, we know that God said that Ahab was going to die. So was it his will or not his will, right? Anyway, Jehoshaphat goes on to this battle along with Ahab. Ahab has this idea. I'm going to go in disguise. Jehoshaphat, you go in your royal robe. First of all, you're going in disguise and I wear a robe. Okay, that doesn't sound, suspicious. Really? And Jehoshaphat does that. Can you believe it? And so the king of Aram basically told his men, we don't want to when they went out to battle, we don't want anyone else. We just want the king. We just want Ahab. So they notice the royal robe and they run after, Jehoshaphat because he's don't want the royal robe. Jehoshaphat calls out to God and they notice that his king is not Ahab. That was not King Ahab. So they turn around and they go another way. Remember, they're just after the king. They're not after the people. But get this. One of the guys, one of the men randomly, of Aram, randomly shoots an arrow. And the arrow lands on one person. And that person is Ahab. Isn't that something? So Ahab is like, oh, I'm hit, let's go, whatever. And guys, we know what happened to Ahab. Ahab dies. And so fast forward, Jehoshaphat's going back home and he's greeted by the man of God who tells him, God was not pleased with what you had done. You make friends with God's enemies, basically. But because you are definitely doing good still otherwise. Jehoshaphat was a great king, and he was a man of wealth. Of course, people would give him money. God blessed him financially. Also, a man of integrity, of high esteem. And one of the things they said about Jehoshaphat that was pretty cool, Jehoshaphat lived in Jerusalem, but Jehoshaphat went amongst the people. His whole point was to get out there and let's, teach the people, encourage the people to serve God. That is what he did with himself. He also appointed judges and priests. The judges he appointed, he told them, when you judge, don't judge to please man, judge to please God. He had the priests to go out there and to teach the people about God. So that's one of the biggest things, the best thing he did. The only thing he didn't do was get rid of those pagan shrines. That was the only thing he didn't do. So people didn't really serve him wholeheartedly from what I'm gathering. That's toward the end it tells us in that book. But other than that, he did go out and teach people. And that's the thing. People just, I don't know. I love the fact that he led by example and went out and then just sent people to go and teach people. He left the comfort of his home and did what he could to encourage the people to love the Lord, to trust the Lord, to obey God, to follow his decrees and his commands. Fast forward, there was a vast army coming against the children of Judah. Moab, Ammon, and Mount Seir. And so Jehoshaphat is terrified. Jehoshaphat is like, Lord, help us, right? And then he calls out this fast and tells everyone to fast. And we're going to have to seek the Lord about this. And so Some people would just come to Jerusalem. They came to Jerusalem. And when they got to Jerusalem, Jehoshaphat stood in the courtyard and he spoke to them. And he prayed in the midst of everyone and talked to God and said, Lord, you are our God, basically. You blessed us with this. You did this for us. And now this is what is about to happen to us. And we need your help. And how about the Spirit of God fell on this guy? And this guy prophesied to them what God has told him to tell the people of Judah. He tells them, you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be discouraged. This battle is not yours. This is mine. You're going to go out there to the battlefield, but you won't have to do a thing. Isn't that something? So, of course, hello, praise God, right? So the next day, Jehoshaphat encouraged the people again and let them know that God is with us. Isn't that something? And after that, he appointed singers to lead the army, a choir, a praise and worship to sing praises unto God, that God is good and his mercy and love endures forever. Isn't that something? And the word of God says, the moment the choir, the singers started to sing, God caused confusion in the enemy camp. Moab and Ammon fought against Mount Seir, killed them off. Then Moab and Ammon fought against each other, killed each other off. When the children of Judah got down to the battlefield, everyone was dead, not one person alive. Isn't it something? When they started praising God, he caused the enemy to be confused and fight amongst each other. Children of Judah got there. Everyone was dead. They were like, what the, right? And get this. So much plunder. Took them 3 days to collect all the plunder. So not only did he destroy the enemies, but he also blessed them financially. The only thing they did was trust God and sing praises to him. That right there should speak to us loud and clear. The only way we know that God is when we try him, we trust him, and we try him. And that's what they did. They trusted him. They depended on him. They trusted him, and he came through. And they were convinced. And the word of God says that people around the other surrounding nations heard what happened, and the fear of God was upon them. They did not bother Jehoshaphat again, Jehoshaphat or Judah again. I love the fact that Jehoshaphat was a true man of God, and it showed in his actions. His only problem is making an alliance with certain people he shouldn't be making an alliance with, because he made another alliance with someone else, made these fleet a ship, and it was not prosperous. God said that was not going to be prosperous because he didn't seek him in it. He's making these alliances. But I love the fact that they trusted God. Jehoshaphat led the people. That was his whole thing. He led the people to trust God. He, in action, did all he could to get people to love God and to know God and to trust God. In action, he lived it by even praying and seeking God when there was a problem. And in action, he trusted God and acted accordingly, appointing singers before the army. Seriously? And when they got there, the battle was already won. God said that battle is not yours, it's mine. And clearly, he fought that battle for them. The only thing they had to do was send up those praises, people. What happens when we send up praises to God? What's going on in the atmosphere? I'm just saying, though, that's one of my favorite stories about God acting, been activated by our praises. But guys, that was day number 135, 2 Chronicles, chapter 18 through 20. You have a God-filled blessed day.